Welcome to Tenacious Entrepreneurs, where perseverance meets purpose and every setback is just another step forward. Join us as we dive into the journeys of entrepreneurs who faced failures, embraced change, and emerged stronger than ever. Whether you're dreaming big or already on your way, this podcast is here to remind you that the end is only the beginning. Stay inspired, stay tenacious, and let's conquer the entrepreneurial world together.
Hey, it's Joey Dupont. Welcome back to Tenacious Entrepreneur Podcast. We have Clayton in here today as coming in to give us some wisdom and knowledge on all of his experience. I always say respect the hoary head. I got a little bit of gray hair here. So man, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you, Joey. Good to be here.
Yeah. Have you done anything with the Bitcoins and not Bitcoins, but in general, like the coins that are out there?
Crypto?
Yeah.
A little. Not a lot.
Yeah. I've got friends of mine that like invested $10,000 and now it's at $100,000, and I never was that lucky. I always invested. I'd put 10 grand into something and it would go to $2.
That's what my initial foray into crypto. I put $1,000 in, it became 100.
Yeah.
So I took that out of my line of vision. It's but I am getting ready to put some money into XRP shortly because I've heard several credible people say it's supposed to hit and it's low priced. So I've learned my lesson. I'm going to put a little there.
Yeah.
Speculative.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Like I hate to say the word Robinhood, but Robinhood has the stuff where you can buy Bitcoin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I use that, and I invested in Cardano and different XRP and different ones invest in, and I would watch the overall to see like how did I go up and down instead of watching each individual one. That's what I found was like the hardest thing. If you buy one and it goes down, you're like, if you buy.
So you're diversified.
I'm diversified into like 5 or 6, so it made it easier. But sure enough, I think I just sold one of them, Cardano or something like that. I sold it because it was like it spiked, and I was like, okay, I'm done. And then it spiked and went to $1 from I was at 27 cents. Like 4x my money if I would have left it in there, but I didn't. I left it in something else. I don't remember what it was, but one of the other coins. But yeah, that's I find that people in the younger generation are investing more in Bitcoin and different types of cryptocurrencies than they are in stocks. I know like we had the big push into stocks whenever COVID hit. Everybody became a stock analyst, and
everything was on sale.
Everything was, it was like everything was go buy. I watched Kramer and he was like, buy, but yeah, I've never done a lot in stocks because honestly, I sat down and it was ignorance when I was in my 20s, and I first started my RV dealership and stuff like that. I remember I had a guy come in and sit down and talk with me about stock. And he laid it out on the table. It might have been you. I don't know who it was, but it was somebody. And they laid it out on the table and he said, okay, here's the upside and the downside, and take 10% and put in the risky, and, give me 50% to put in this, and we'll, and it showed me everything. And I said, okay, show me your best client. And he sat down and, he didn't show me the name, but he showed me the numbers and the returns. And it was like 12% or 10% or something like that is what he averaged his best client in a return. And I was like, okay, I just put $100,000 into 10 RVs and I sold them for $1 million. You can't do that. And so I didn't invest. I just stayed in the
You're
RVs.
Smart.
And I was like, well, I don't know if it was smart because I did what you said.
No, that was smart because people need to find what they're good at. I call that their core.
Right.
And stick to their core and find other things that complement it.
Right. What I did was I invested everything into that. And so after I lost everything, which I did after the 2009 bust, it's funny. I didn't lose everything like most people would think. I remember the day that they came in and did an audit on my inventory, and they said, well, you've got 20% aged inventory. We need you to give us a check for $5 million. We had $30 million in inventory. So he said, I need a check for $5 million to pay off all of these. And I was like, I don't have that much liquid cash. Like, I've got used inventory that's worth close to that. I could liquidate and probably pay you that. Well, no, we're going to go ahead and call your loan. And this is GE Capital and Textron.
Wow.
And so they came in, and I remember like it was yesterday, the guy banged his fist on my table, and I said, I know you got $5 million somewhere. You need to come up with it and figure out how to bring it to the table, or we're going to take everything. We're going to take your house, your car, your boats, your everything. And I stopped him and I said, do you have a gun? I just gotten back from China from a mission trip. We've gone for like a month. And I said, do you have a gun? And he said, no. He came in from New York, from GE Capital. And he turned white as a sheet. I guess because he's in Louisiana, he think I'm going to shoot him. And I said, so you're not here to shoot me, right? And he said, no, I'm not going to shoot you. And I said, I haven't done anything illegal or wrong, right? And you're not going to take me to prison. My kids aren't going to debtor's prison. Nothing like that, right? And he said, no. I said, so what we're talking about is dead trees and ink, right? We're not talking about anything eternal. And I said, so you didn't give me the ability to create wealth. God did. And if God gave me the ability to create wealth and you're not here to cut the tongue out of my head or kill me, I'll make it again. It'll be okay. And I said, I'm not trying to marginalize or minimize what you're doing. You have a job. I get it. You got to come in and intimidate and do all the stuff you got to do. But it doesn't have to be done with malice. Like, you just need to understand that I'm not fighting you.
Right.
I'll show you everything. I'll give you everything that you asked me for. You don't have to be mean. That guy ended up getting to pray for him for his back. He had back issues. Getting to pray for him. And he kept saying, man, I've never experienced anything like this. He's like, people usually like hide money and try to do it. You're just showing me everything. Like, I don't understand. And I explained to him, my past as a Christian and where I was at. But that guy ended up saying that the reason why, he said, I got to tell you, he said, the reason why we're doing this has nothing to do with your curtailments and stuff that's out there. He said, we've been mandated by a corporate office that we have to reduce our risk. We have to cut this mess out of our lending out. And when we did an audit on you, we realized that you had $5 million worth of liquidable assets, and we're just going to liquidate you just to get them. I've been in business 20 years. He said, we're just going to liquidate it, to get your assets, and then we're going to count our losses and go on. So the point I guess I'm saying is that I had all my eggs invested in that. I put all my money into the used inventory that I was going to sell later and make, I had $5 million worth of inventory. Thank God, by the time they got through liquidating everything, I remember it took them 2 years. I had 2 RV dealerships and, had a lot of inventory. We sold 100 campers a month. So, I was, I probably had 10,000 campers. And so he told me, the guy called me and he said, okay, you owe us $1,203,000. I think it was the amount that he told me. And I said, man, that is great. Can you send that to me in writing? And he said, why? And I said, well, I need it for the bankruptcy courts. If I'm going to owe you $1 million, I figured it would be more than that, but you must have really done good, selling off my inventory. And he never called me again. He just walked away and never, I've never heard back. That's been 15 years ago. But he never called me back again. But the point is I invested all my money into one asset, RVs. And hindsight, doing what I'm doing now is so much better because I've got 6 or 7, 7 businesses that I'm spreading things out in, spreading my risk. If one industry collapsed like COVID, whenever it went, COVID happened, if I'd just been in one industry, the main company I had was Secure Trade. I couldn't go out and knock doors and talk to sales guys anymore or, to people. And if I just had that, I don't know where I'd be. You know what I'm saying? I had my income. But thank God people still spent money, but most of it was online stuff. They weren't spending it going to places, and I had 2,000 businesses that needed you to go physically to the places to make money. That's how I made money, was a percentage of that. So for me, I think diversity, and I sort of rabbit trailed a little bit, but I just want to say diversifying, I think is wisdom. to be able to diversify in your portfolio. And would you say like obviously no names or anything like that, but what is the best return that you've seen in your investment experience?
That's a loaded question. Well, I'm going to answer that two different ways. The best return would be eternal.
Okay, well, of course, yeah, that's a great.
You can't put a price on that.
Yeah, it's eternal.
When you redeem funds to do something in the kingdom.
Yeah.
Best return, it really depends upon a person's sweet spot. A lot of times it's businesses, can be real estate, can be the stock market, depending upon how savvy you are.
But you're the one that's got to be savvy, right? I mean, you take the money and invest it.
Yeah, either as an investor or as a advisor.
Right. But I'm saying, like, if you've had people double their money, I mean, 10% on their money, is it common to make 10% a year? Is it not common to make? I hear people talking about making 10% on their money every year and investing it in stuff, and I just have never seen anything stable that you can just say, like a slot machine. You just put the money in and pull the lever, and 10% comes out. Is there mutual funds, or like what is it that you put your money in to get steady growth like that?
That's another loaded question. You're good at asking those. So the way you make money in the stock market is through volatility.
Okay.
You've made money through leverage.
Right.
So it's similar. You could have, let's go back to the 1930s, for example. If you put $1 in the stock market in 1929, it was still $1 in 1945. So if you just let it sit there and go up and down, you didn't make any money. However, if you had a system to go in and out, maybe not perfectly.
Not day trading,
but something similar to that, where you had a system, hopefully time proven, where you could look at gauges and see, okay, now's the time to sell, now's the time to buy. Whoops, I did that opposite. You buy low, you sell high.
Yeah.
So you do that. There was a lot of volatility over those 16 years. So a person could have gotten rich off of that. Most people didn't know how to do that.
Yeah, I mean, look like Warren Buffett. He said he just basically put it in and leave it in.
Well, he's what they call buy and holder.
Yeah.
So that's the simplest way to do it, and that's what the financial institution sells to do. Is you find quality, you buy it, you hold on to it.
You buy Coca-Cola and Apple and Disney and
that's not a bad way to do it. Where people mess up is if they go emotional. So the average investor, when they're on their own, they're going to do, instead of buying low, selling high, they'll do the opposite. So if you look at gold right now, gold's really high historically.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's a bad time to buy, but Buffett has even said, when people are buying, I'm selling, because he's got a disciplined system and he's got all kinds of gauges to look at.
Yeah.
So what's a good rate of return? The average investor, if you go to a company called Dalbar, Dalbar, they run analysis on how investors do in the stock market, bond market. They don't sell any products, so they're arm's length.
Unbiased, yeah.
Unbiased. So the average person makes about 6%
okay.
in the stock market over 10 years or so, or longer. Even if the market's making 10, they're making 6, because they're not picking the right stuff. And even if they do, they don't stay in it. They jump out, because the average investor gets in and gets out in 3 years or less.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they do it again.
And that's what I found with like Robinhood. It's like really, to me, it's almost like the microwave investing, because it's so easy to pull out and it's so easy to invest in that there's impulse that goes along, in emotion that goes along with it. And you're like, hey, my cousin said that they're going to start selling Moderna, stocks for cheap. You better get out, And so you bail out. And I did that. Like I put money into the stock market and played around with it for a little bit. And I guess I did better than most, because I made like 20%.
That's good.
Overall.
My goal is 20 per year.
Yeah.
So this is how I do it, is that the S&P 500 is the benchmark that everything's measured against. And let's say it makes about 10 average year, which it does over time. There's ups and downs. So what I felt the Lord led me to do was to cherry pick. So find the ones that are the leaders in their sectors, have been leaders, will presumably be leaders for a long time to come. So for example, a really hot stock right now is NVIDIA. It's an AI semiconductor stock.
Right.
So it's really in the sweet spot of global technology. They're the leader. It's the number one performing stock in the last 20 years, 10 years. It's projected to be the same over the next 10 years.
Right.
So you could buy one share of NVIDIA today. I think it's about $180 or so. And if you just leave it alone, if it does as well the next 10 years as it did the last 10 years, it could be worth $600,000 at $183. So people try to do that with crypto. I'm doing it with stocks.
Right, and that's a big return, because I mean that's not what I've ever seen.
That's like 30,000% in 10 years.
Yeah,
you can fact check me on it, but it's it's real.
Yeah, no, that's the reason I'm asking about it. Like it's interesting to me. Like I've got friends of mine that day trade, and I tell them, man, they just don't get free drinks. They're in the casino. They don't get free drinks every time that they pull the sandal. But they'll come to me and be like, man, I made $100,000 this today. And then they'll come to me 3 days later and I lost $200,000. Dude,
well, you need to hedge too.
That volatile, like I would not be able to sleep at night. Like I couldn't.
Yeah, you need to hedge.
I work too hard for my money,
in my opinion, and basically that just means you need to counterbalance. So if you're taking a lot of risk here, you've got to do something over there that offsets that risk, which it sounds like you're doing with your businesses, because they're dissimilar.
Yeah.
So you can do that in the stock market. You can do that in real estate. You can do that in any sector.
So I found we're in a generation right now that the baby boomers are aging out. They're at a record number. They're just closing their businesses and walking away. And they're good businesses. I mean, there's stuff that's making $500,000, a year profit, and they still don't have anybody that they mentored or Timothy to raise up behind them. No exit strategy. They just say, okay, that's enough. I put enough money aside, and I'm going to go on. And to me, like that's the guy that I try to find and say, okay, I just bought a company of mobile TV company that had mobile TV trucks and stuff like that. And it was the same thing. Like he was ready to he's like, I think I'm gonna give it back to the bank and just walk away. And I was like, but you make money. And he was like, yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I was like, I'll buy it. So I bought his company. And I'm just saying stuff like that to me is where I've invested, and I've done well with having companies over time. That I invest in people, the people that I put into the company to run it, I've always liked that. I've always liked having the physical people that I can talk to and touch their lives and be a part of their lives. I feel like it's almost my ministry, to be able to have an impact on their lives, because a lot of them wouldn't go off and be successful on their own, but if you give them an opportunity, to do it, they'll be successful. But you've challenged me on the stock market side of things. So I have to give that some serious consideration now that I'm looking it up in video. And my phone's in the car, and NVIDIA.
Well, my new best friend is ChatGPT.
Oh, trust me, I'm a big ChatGPT guy, and Grok.
Not familiar with Grok.
Grok is Elon Musk's version of ChatGPT.
Oh,
so
okay.
He's got a Grok version that you can actually pit them against each other. You say, well, Grok said that this, and are you sure that this is the way it's going to go? And the ChatGPT will actually respond to it. But yeah, Grok. So he invented his primary thing that he said that he put inside of his AI, OpenAI, was that it had to know how to kill every other AI that's out there at all times. Because he said, I think the AI is going to take over the world and it's going to become evil. And he said, I'm building a savior that's going to, stop the world from being taken over by AI. So
if I wanted to make superior returns in the stock market and I didn't know anything, I would just go to ChatGPT and just say, hey,
here, give me some predictive.
Who are the best managers of stocks in the world, and what do they do, and how's it different, and what's their track record, and how can I replicate that myself? I haven't even thought to do that and check my system against that. I probably should.
You should, yeah.
But
I use it for like I speak a lot at Christian events and public events and stuff, and I use that for any time that I'm speaking. I take everything that I'm going to speak on and I put it into there and be like, hey, does this translate? I'm going to be speaking to youth, and I'm talking about this, and it'll break out and challenge me, like, hey, this point doesn't make sense. Like,
right,
for a person that's 15 to 18, like they're not going to pick up on that and understand it. You need to give a different analogy, to it. Same thing with writing books. I take my books when I write a book, I load it into ChatGPT and tell it, hey, I need you to assess this and make sure I'm going to be able to reach entrepreneurs with this topic. Does it all make sense?
Yes.
And it'll tell me, hey, this isn't clear. Like, you need to give action points. Like you said, you need to get up in the morning and find a positive way to lead out your day. But how do you do that? What's your secret? And so I had to break it down and be like, hey, wake up in the morning, the first 15 minutes, thank God just for waking you up. You got nothing else to be thankful for but you're breathing.
Yes.
And when you stand up, thank him for your legs. And whenever you walk to the shower, thank him that you can walk.
Yes.
Whenever you turn on the shower, thank you got water. Whenever you know what I'm saying, like, I find the things to be thankful for. And so I laid it out. But Chat was the one that challenged me on it. And I sent it to 10 different editors on Fiverr to get them to edit it and make sure it's grammatically correct and no errors or anything. And sure enough, Chat was the one that helped me drill down. So
now I'm going to throw you a curve.
Yeah.
In terms of highest rate of return. So real estate has a phrase, highest and best use. So the way that people make the most money is money in motion, not money just sitting there and accumulating and not moving around. You know that as a business owner, entrepreneur. Yeah. So
cash flow.
The flow of cash.
Yeah.
Yeah. And whether you like them or not, Donald Trump says the way I became a billionaire was I just learned how to flow money better than many people.
Yeah.
And he's worth several billion, so maybe he knows something.
Might know a few
whether
things.
You like him or not.
Yeah, I like him. So we're
but I believe that concept that he put out there about how you flow money is valid. So I have no problem if a client comes to me and says, hey, thank you for making me 20% the last 5 years, but I've got this opportunity to buy a gravel pit and blow it through the roof. I'm going to say, sure, do that. Because number one, it's not my money. And my security doesn't come from money, it comes from God.
Right.
Which is a little countercultural, even in the Christian world at times. And then I do the same thing with my own money. Because I might, for example, you ride the waves. Things are cyclical. So the stock market does real well. I'll take some gains off the table, go do something else. So I encourage that.
Yeah.
I don't have a scarcity mentality with that.
Yeah.
And I know enough clients are going to sit there and not move the money that I'm going to be okay.
Well, I have a very much the same mentality that I tell them that, inactivity is the thing that God can't use.
Right.
God can use anybody that's moving.
Parable of the talents.
You just need to be in motion.
Yeah.
You got to be in motion. Like he said to Abraham, go into a land you don't know of. He didn't say go to Nineveh. He didn't say go to, he said go to a land you don't know of.
Get moving.
Get moving. The easiest ship to steer is a moving ship. You ever try to steer a ship that's sitting still?
A sailboat.
If it's sitting
with no
still
wind.
With no wind, it won't steer.
No.
I don't care what you do. You can turn all you want. It ain't going nowhere. You just get 1 mile per hour, and all of a sudden, you can turn, and you can actually make shifts and make moves. And that's what I tell people, man. As an entrepreneur, I get asked all the time, like, how did you become successful? And I don't know how you gauge success, but I would tell them, it's like, hey, the only way to become successful is to try and fail, and then don't do that again.
Yes.
Try something else.
Yes.
And then pivot and go to a different direction and try, learning when to pivot. That was probably the most critical thing for me, is like having constant measurement and constant benchmark to where I can understand, hey, I'm starting to see the business is doing this.
Trending.
I need to pivot to where, what can I pivot? That's what I was saying about I always feel like I'm always changing things, but it's because if I see it slacking or going down, I want to pivot to get it to where it's going the right direction, to keep it sustainable.
So you're hands-on with your businesses.
Yeah. So my dad was more of I give you an example. My dad had an RV dealership when I was growing up, and he had 2 employees and us. He had 3 kids. So, and my mom was a bookkeeper, and my brother was a mechanic and worked on RVs, and I was a sales guy, and my other brother washed them. So he had the full deal with just the family. And he hired 1 sales guy. That was all he did. 20 years. That's all he did. And I mean, eventually he closed the business and went on to do other things. And I mean, successful in the fact that he started a Cajun CJ's, a jambalaya business, and started selling gumbos and stuff like that. He did what he loved. And so I don't have any fault to him, but I'm saying his mentality was very much micromanage. He would give you the broom to sweep out the RV, and then you'd start sweeping. He'd be like, "No, you got to go left to right." Like, "Well, Dad, I'm just sweeping it out the door." "No, you got to go left to right." And then you just take the broom from you, and it's like this. And I find that entrepreneurs that are very micromanaged and hands-on is what we call them, but the ones that are very micromanaged, they never can multiply. They can only duplicate. In order to multiply, which having 7 businesses and being able to continue to grow more businesses, in order to multiply, you have to be willing to allow diminishing returns on what they're doing. In other words, they take it from you. You're making $100,000 a year with it, and it brings in $80,000. Instead of taking it back from them and saying, "Okay, you don't get to have this anymore because you don't know what you're doing," you go in and help them pivot. "Hey, have you considered this? Did you think about doing that?" And then the next year they make 120. And now they know how to make money. You taught them how to fish. And so to me, that's the best way to do it, is to actually teach them how to do it. And then eventually they're successful and they don't need you.
Right.
I mean, Blanche is a perfect example. You know how many times I've been to Mandeville in the last 2 years?
Probably not a lot.
3 times. Most of the time just to meet with Michael and go play golf or, whatever. Like you find good people and you invest in them and you make sure they're paid well, and you don't get greedy. And then you go in and find another good person. And Tracy Kelly, he's here in New Orleans, and same thing. Like, he's amazing, amazing guy. But I find really good people. You know how many times I've been in New Orleans, like actually having a drum up business, and I maybe came like 10 times when he first started to help him sort of learn how to model it. And now I come here every once in a while for a networking event. But I don't know that my dad would have done that. My dad would have been the one that'd be like, "Well, you're not doing sales the right way. You need to do it this way." When I first got here with Tracy, that was my personality. Like, I came in, was like, "Hey, this is how I do it. You go to every door in a strip mall, and you talk to every single person, and you sign up. You talk to 10, you'll sign up 5. Just do it like this." Poor Tracy, 2 days in, was ready to quit. He was like, "I can't do this. Like, this isn't me. I'm not gonna be able to do this. I don't think I'm gonna be able to work with you." And I mean, I've known Tracy for, like, I help him come to the Lord, and I mean, he's been like a son to me for probably, I don't know, 15 years. So for him to be like, "I'm ready to quit," it really shook me as like, well, am I failing as a trainer? Do I not know? Did I not push him hard enough? And so finally I just backed up and I said, "Show me how you do it." And the way he does it is he goes to Secretary of State, figures out who the owner is, goes to Facebook, figure out what their name is, what their daughter's name is, what their wife's name is. He goes to figure out what their hobbies are, figures out what their passions are. And then he goes to a networking event that he knows they're going to be at because they post that they're going to be at every time. And then he's signing up more people than I ever signed up. It's a different way.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's the wrong way.
Yeah.
It just means that he knows how to sign up people in his own way. Now, could I have forced him into mine? I could have. I could have, like, bent him into my will and just, try to keep it. Would he have been happy? He would have been miserable. Mm-hmm. And that's what I feel like is like finding people that you can invest in and help them to be able to learn their style, that they're not always going to do it the same as you. I tell the story in business when I speak a lot about there was a guy that was hungry and he saw a guy fishing, and he said, "Man, can I get some of that fish?" And the guy said, man, you can't get my fish. This is my fish. Like, go get your own pole. Go out there in the woods and cut you a piece of bamboo and come out and go fishing. He went to the woods to go cut the bamboo. He didn't have a knife. And so he saw a guy cutting with a knife and said, hey, can I use your knife to cut me some bamboo? No, man, go to the steel mill up the street and get your own knife. And so he left and went to the steel mill and went to get a knife. And the guy was he was telling him what he was about to do. And he said, well, if you're hungry, man, you probably need to get across the river over there. That's where all the food is. Why don't you just go ahead and build you a bridge? And he said, well, I don't really know how to build a bridge. And he said, well, you just got to weld. And he said, well, can I use your welder? No, you can't use mine. So it keeps on down, and I'm not going to bore you with the whole story, but at the end of the thing, he finally gets somewhere, and the little girl that's sitting on the side of the bank says, there's a McDonald's right there. You can get all the fish you want, or whatever. There's a place right there you can go eat. And the moral of the story is, like, everybody usually tells people how to do things from their perspective. If you're a welder, it has to be welded. If you're a carpenter, it has to be made out of wood. Everybody has their own perspective, and it seems right. The person that becomes the apostolic leader has the ability to recognize the strength in somebody and just pull that out of them. Instead of trying to force their personality on them, they're able to pull the strength out of them and say, okay, you got a strength. So in that, you build a team.
Right.
You think about Jesus, like, if I was Jesus, I would have went to the synagogue and to the school and got the priest, the high priest, and all of his underlings to be my disciples. Logical, right?
Yeah.
I mean, immediately get acceptance, immediately get the following, immediately. Instead, he went out and got Peter, a fisherman with a foul mouth and a horrible anger attitude, and then he got James and John and all these different guys that, like Matthew, a tax collector. Like, none of it made sense, but he understood something that I think is a principle that is really lost in leadership, is that you need to not hate the differences, embrace the differences, teach them how to the overall moral value is make money, in the stock market, but you could raise up younger people that might not use your system.
Right.
They use their own system.
Yeah.
They use ChatGPT to figure out a system, but you can mentor them and grow them. I don't know if you're doing that already. Are you raising up another generation behind you, or?
Not as an advisor. I need to bring another advisor in or two, but I've got a support team.
Yeah. Well, I advise you that as you do that, man, I think it's going to be your legacy. Like, I'm just telling you, like, I think as you look at your legacy years, the next 25 years, man, I'm assuming I'm 55, or are you in that 55, 60?
I'm 64 almost.
Okay. So, the next 20 years, 85 is when you don't want to be swinging a hammer anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like,
maybe earlier than that.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, if you're looking at a legacy
yes.
of being able to be the, Charles Schwab that leaves a legacy behind you, I think that finding people that are young, that have ideas and have vision and stuff, that you can actually just guide them. Put on some guide rails on the side, like common sense stuff, like, hey, diversify. I made the mistake of just investing in one thing, and boy, that was a loss.
Yeah. Did the same with the oil and gas.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Teach them, like, hey, diversify. That's a godly principle that you've learned.
Yes.
That's
the hard
valuable.
way.
Yeah, you've learned it the hard way, the gray hair. That's what I always tell them. Like, the reason why I always, from the time I was 8 years old, I'd sit down with older people with gray hair, and I ask them, what do you wish you wouldn't have done? What do you wish you would have done? And I've done that my whole life since I was 8. Like, I remember sitting down with Miss Eloise, and her hands were all balled up, and she couldn't hardly, she was in a nursing home. At church, I'd hold her Bible or her songbook to sing at church, and I remember asking her, like, what do you wish you would have done? What do you wish you wouldn't have done? And it's helped guide me in love in my life and marriage and business and everything else. So I think paying it, reaching back to those people, whether you retire and you have enough money to retire and you just said, it's still not going to bring you happiness to just walk away and just to turn the key off and doesn't matter if you had enough money. It matters if you had enough impact.
Yes.
The true impact, I think, that can change somebody else's life in generations. Who's going to point back and say, hey, that guy Chris, he's the one. If I wouldn't have had him in my life mentoring me, I don't know what I would have done. So I'm just challenging you, man. Like we just met each other here really on the show. But I just want to encourage you, man, that like you have it in you. You still have that pastoral gifting. It's just going to be used in a different way. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily to be a pastor of a church. You may decide you want to do that. I don't know. But I think to lead a generation that's coming up behind you, and to find the younger guys that you can encourage. Not all of them will listen. Yeah. So you're looking for Pastor Larry used to call it fat people. Faithful, available, and teachable.
Right. Yes.
Don't pour your energy into people that ain't fat. So just encouraging you, man. That is great having you on the show. And I definitely appreciate you bringing your words of wisdom. Is there anything you want to pass on to the rest of the viewers that are listening and watching the podcast right now about legacy and about what you're doing with the rest of your life?
That is a great question. I think you want your legacy to be fourfold. You want it to be a legacy of not just good management of finances, but you lived a healthy life, physically and mentally. Relationally, you want to model great relationships.
Yeah.
And you want to show people that you discovered your mission that God had you here for, and you were full on with that. So those would be the 4 areas. I find that people a lot of times don't have that in balance. Maybe they look too much at one area, or they're struggling in an area. But to me, that's the package of wealth, mm-hmm. is having all 4 of those firing off and maximized.
I remember I was writing my first book. It was called Kings and Priests, and I was writing about success. And I remember I was on an airplane flying to China. We adopted our daughter from there, and so I was a 28-hour flight. You had plenty of time. I was taking all my book and compiling it into an actual book. I don't know if you've ever written a book, but you have I
wrote 3 booklets.
Okay. Yeah. When you write a book that's 100 pages, you got probably 800 pages that you write, and then you consolidate it all down to 100 pages. And so I was in the process of consolidating it down. And I remember I started to write about success. And so I thought, well, if I'm writing a book about success, I probably need to define it. So I wrote, success is finding a thing to give your life to, and giving 90% of your income away to be able to see that thing come to life and fruition and move on after you're gone. And I got through writing, and I thought, man, any non-believer that reads this is going to think I'm brainwashed and just giving money to the church and not going to listen to me. I hit delete, and it pulled it off, and I wrote again. Success is, and I wrote a very nondescript, philanthropic giving, to philanthropic needs and finding ways to do it. And it was all this great stuff. But then when I got through writing, I thought, any Christian that reads this, it's going to put the book down, because he's going to be like, oh, this is some secular guy that doesn't really knows, anything about anything. And so I remember I closed my tablet and I said, Lord, you define success. After that trip, I lost everything. And the Lord defined success for me. It took me another 10 years. And I remember going through all the trauma and dealing with everything. And he defined success. He said, success is someone who can find peace and keep peace in any circumstance. Because what you're after is not money. That's dead trees and ink. You're after money brings a certain amount of peace. But he said, ultimately, if you depend on the money to bring you that peace and not me, then I'm going to take the money away, because I need you to depend on me. And once you find your place of peace in me, no one can take you. You'll be tenacious. And that's whenever I actually wrote the book Tenacious Entrepreneur. After that, I threw away the Kings and Priests book and just wrote on the tenacity that it takes to actually find God, to actually grab a hold of him and understand what you got and not let go. And that's the encouragement I'll leave you with, man, is is just keep on being tenacious in your faith. You public about your faith and you're sharing it, and that's a testimony in and of itself. But don't be surprised if you have people that start seeking you out for wisdom and for advice. It costs something. For Paul to have Timothy, it cost him something. It wasn't easy. He had to write letters to him, and he had to encourage him, and he had to say, "Hey, don't let people despise you, man. You're young, but you're gonna be okay. You're the leader. Stuff like that." But God's gonna put Timothy's around you. They're gonna be looking at you as Paul, as a patriarch. That's gonna be leading them and guiding them. So that's my word of encouragement that I want to leave you with.
Thank you for that.
Amen. Amen. Do you mind closing us out in prayer?
Happy to do that.
All right. Thank you.
Father, we just thank you for, like Joey said, giving us life. Every good thing comes from you. We love you. You are awesome. We thank you, Lord, that your call is upward, not downward, Lord, like the devil's. Mm-hmm. So, Lord, we're just going to keep tracking with you and with each other. Thank you for creating the body. Thank you that we can have an instant connection with our brothers and sisters because of you being our Father. Yes, Lord. We love you. We bless you. We exalt you. Yes. Thank you for this time we got to share today. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much, brother.
My pleasure.
I appreciate you being on the show.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
All right.
That's it for this episode of The Tenacious Entrepreneur. Thanks for tuning in and being part of this journey. Are you an entrepreneur with a tenacious story? We want to hear from you. Visit our website, tenaciousentrepreneur.com, and click on the Tell My Story link. If you got something valuable from today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a fellow entrepreneur. Keep pushing forward, and remember, the end is only the beginning. A new episode drops every Wednesday at 7:14 a.m. Until then, remember to stay humble, stay focused, and be tenacious.